Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time talking episode 8 of season 2 of Supergirl Medusa. And this is a reasonably solid episode. It definitely brings quite a few things to a head. And of course, a small part of it is the first part of the big CW crossover event with the alien invasion. But let's just kind of get right into things. So let's just kind of go through the characters one by one and talk about what we have going on. Let's start with Alex. So her big thing this episode is, of course, coming out to her mom. And I suppose before I go any further, I should stop and kind of give a little bit of disclosure here. I did kind of miss the first 10 minutes of this episode, simply because right before the episode started, I got a phone call, and it was something I did have to sort out. But anyway, the stuff with Alex, of course, is her feeling reluctance to come out to her mom. And given how things have gone since she came out to Kara, it's kind of understandable. She just doesn't really want to continue with this. But her mom is cool, and she's like, "Look, I'm not going to love you any less because you're gay." All right, that's certainly how things should go in situations like that. And then it comes to Maggie showing up on her door after she's been injured by Hank Henshaw, saying, you know what, life's short, let's go for the whole relationship thing, which totally flies in the face of what she was saying a few episodes ago. But this one I can kind of let slide because, if there's anything that's going to make you feel like throwing the rule book out the window, it's a brush with death. So this kind of feels like they really rushed this a little bit too much, which is a bit of a shame, but what's done is done. I guess we'll just have to see how things pan out from here. So let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Well, we've got some interesting stuff going on with Mon-El. I guess we might as well get the romantic side out of things. I mean, he does have that rather horrific experience of watching all those people in the bar dying. Well, no, he was getting his butt kicked by Hank then, wasn't he? Well, anyway, so Mon-El loses that fight to Hank. He gets sick, and I do like they mention that Kryptonians and Daxamites are similar enough that he's not going to die from it immediately, but ultimately it is going to eventually kill him. So that was a nice little nod there. The thing that, and I do like how that Kara decides to have a little conversation with him about like, hey, are you into me? And this ultimately kind of ends up with them kissing. And then the whole thing when Mon-El is cured, he doesn't seem to remember. I'm like watching this, I'm like, oh well this is bull. He is totally lying about this just to save face because he's embarrassed. Again, if you think you're about to die, you have very little motivation to not put all your cards on the table. And now it's sort of like, oh, guess I'm not going to die. Maybe that was a bad idea. But we'll see how this goes. Honestly, I'm not sensing the greatest chemistry between these two characters. Now, what's more interesting is this whole thing with these other aliens who are looking for Mon-El and are just hell-bound to find him. Hell-bent, I suppose I should say. Now, there's a number of things this could be. Probably has something to do with that prince on Daxam, I'm thinking. But, if you're familiar with the comics, you know that in the time of the Legion of Superheroes, 1,000 years in the future, long story short, Mon-El did some stuff that basically saved these other countless alien races who basically sort of worship him as like this great savior. I remember reading the story where he had ended up in the Legion of Time, and Triad, one of the Legionnaires, she was from one of those worlds that basically worshipped him, and he's just like completely freaked out. Like, I mean, she's literally like on her knees offering him a bowl of fruit, refusing to look him in the face, and he is just like, what in the world is going on here? I mean, he was genuinely like freaked out. So that might kind of be I wonder if that might be something that's factoring in here, because again, Supergirl and Mon-El are characters that do have pretty strong ties to the Legion, so it would be very interesting to see them turn up at some point in the future. Although we've already seen a little nod to the Legion over on the Flash, so who knows. Let's see, what else? So let's talk about John. He gets to finally confront Hank Henshaw, and that leads to a pretty sweet fight. And I did like his whole thing. Is like, look, if I'm gonna die, I want to die as myself. Again, kind of echoing exactly what McGann had said to him just before. And if you think about that, John, you might really want to consider letting her out there. So, I mean, it's a pretty cool fight, but of course Henshaw escapes. But because we're obviously not ready to wrap that storyline up yet. I did like how Supergirl kind of got to throw down with him again, and she even flat out said, like, you might be a cyborg, but you're not Superman, which again kind of goes along with why in the world is this guy calling himself Cyborg Superman? Let's see, what else? So Kara's main thing this episode, of course, is the Kryptonian virus, and discovering that her dad made it to help as a bioweapon to protect Krypton. Now, this kind of reminds me a little bit of, I think it was called Plague X in the comics, and it was basically a bioweapon that kind of got out of control and altered the physiology of the Kryptonians so they couldn't survive anywhere but Krypton, which basically kind of put the kibosh on any sort of Kryptonian exploration of space. The Kryptonians had done some before that, and that was actually stuff that got kind of picked up in other storylines in the comics. But that and basically kind of one of the big things that caused Krypton to become such an insular society. But again, that's just the comics. It's kind of interesting that now Kara is having to deal with, like, well, my mother is not the only one that had to do some things that are very morally questionable, and that she wasn't exactly the person that I thought she was. And I'm glad they're kind of doing something with her father, because I mean, he was mentioned, but he was basically nothing in terms of a character in season 1. And I'm glad they're finally addressing that. It'd be interesting to sort of see a little bit more of how all this works out. Although I do kind of hope they make him a little bit more nuanced as time goes by. I think like some flashbacks to Krypton to sort of flesh out who he was as a character would be a really great idea. Let's see here. So Lena Luthor gets some nice stuff here. I really did like that stuff with her mom. And the best thing with Lillian was when she basically flat out said, like, yeah, I loved Lex more. Parents, we say that we love our children equally, but it's not true. Now, I'm an only child, but this whole we love our kids equally, I have never believed that. I have never believed that about anybody I've known who's had brothers or sisters. I really never have. And a lot of times, you can kind of pick this out. Now, it's not to say that people who, have brothers or sisters aren't loved dearly by their parents, but it's just human nature to pick a favorite, and that's just how it is, if you ask me. And granted, again, I don't have any brothers and sisters, so that's simply my perspective as an outsider. Let's leave it at that. And the thing is, that, of course, that Lillian says, like, look, okay, Lex is my favorite. That doesn't mean that I didn't care about you. And this, Luthor's being Luthor's, Lena's attempt to sort of apparently ingratiate herself with the mother comes with a test. And of course, like, hey, fire off this missile that's going to kill all these aliens. I mean, there's always a test with the Luthors. That's just how they work. But, of course, Lena turns out, rather obviously, that this was a con to, sort of help save the aliens. And what's interesting, though, is that when Supergirl went to her earlier in that episode and, like, explained her suspicions, it was all like, look, you're doing this just to me just because I'm a Luthor, and you're saying these things about my mother because that we're Luthors, and you, of course, have to believe that Luthors are bad. And Supergirl is like, look, I think your mother is bad, but I don't think you're bad. I think you're a good person. And then Lena's like, screw you, get out of my office. Which is really weird because, again, Supergirl had just expressly said, I do not believe that you are a bad person. Now, granted, people are not always emotionally rational when it comes to their family, and this was a pretty unpleasant thing to hear. I mean, Lena's obviously not her mother's biggest fan, but still, nobody likes to hear people say bad stuff about their mother. So I can kind of understand where she was coming from on that one. Still, the idea of sort of Lena as a potentially closer ally of Kara, that is something that's very interesting. Now, what's going to be interesting to see what happens from here on out is, okay, they've arrested the head of Cadmus. Does Kara's dad just get to come home next episode? Does Jeremiah get to come home next episode? I don't think it's going to be quite that simple. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see here. One thing I kind of have to call bull on is the whole, okay, we've cured the virus. Oh, by the way, the virus can also be used to cure John. Alex and Kara's mom apparently used that thing to fix John in 10 minutes. It's well, that's a ridiculously convenient way to wrap up that plot line. So, yeah, that was pretty weak. Let's see, what else? No, I think that actually kind of covers... Oh, yeah. How could I forget? So we get Barry and Cisco popping up at the very end of the episode to kick off the crossover with the Arrowverse. And I do like how when Barry introduces Cisco, he says, "This is my friend Cisco," and then Cisco quickly corrects Barry to say that he's his partner. Now, a lot of people have taken this as a sign that this is a sort of a nod to how Barry and Cisco are currently on the outs after the recent episodes there on The Flash. Now, I kind of read that scene slightly different. Sort of Cisco seems to be in a pretty cheerful mood. And I think it kind of just sort of him insisting that he's more Barry's partner. To just sort of be Cisco and look, man, I'm just not just some guy who's tagging along with Barry for the ride. I'm actually somebody who's valuable and important to what's going on here. Now, you could also make the case that Cisco was actually sort of putting on a happy face and sort of fronting a little bit to create a good impression on Kara, because of course they're going to need her help, and it's sort of him being pissed at Barry would be a really terrible first impression to make. I mean, the scene, I think, really can be interpreted either way. But I have a feeling that Cisco is probably not going to have too much trouble putting his issues with Barry aside, given what's going on. And, man, this crossover, I think it's going to be great. I cannot wait to watch the rest of it. And I'm so bummed out. I got to work Thursday night, so I'm not going to be able to watch that until sometime Friday to see how it all wraps up. But them's the breaks, right? Anyway, guys, I think that's everything I had to say. So I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Who's Your Jedi. So next time, take care and have a good one.